Now, for the last several weeks, while the Ahsoka series has been ongoing, I've been putting my overall or general review of the episode up in the wee hours of the morning, and then following it up later in the day with a video that maybe goes more into something fans have been talking about, or something that really I just didn't have time to dive into fully from the episode in the video, but now I can. And though I plan to do that once again with the finale, figuring that of course there'd be something or many things to talk about in more detail, and certainly there were things that could be discussed further, and no doubt will at a later time. There were still a lot of general questions about the episode that had been perhaps left unanswered, so many that I had this comment from a user named Glenn who compiled a list of them that he was also kind enough to put in chronological order to kind of go along with the episode, that I thought it might be fun to try to answer these questions. And so what I'm going to try to do is go through this entire list and give an answer to the best of my ability to all of the questions, being sort of pragmatic about it, I guess. I'm neither going to try and necessarily defend the show or attack it, but instead to give my honest, immediate takes, because this will be completely off the cuff. I didn't read all the questions ahead of time, I just read a few of them and thought this could be a really kind of fun and different idea for a video. And so I have no idea what Glenn will even ask here, though thanks to him for taking the time to make this list. Anyway, let's begin this long list of questions, beginning with, why does this episode title rip off C.S. Lewis? And he's of course talking about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Kind of answered this one in my review. It is because, or I believe it's because, the world between worlds is very similar to something called the wood between worlds in C.S. Lewis's work, where you can kind of travel between different worlds, like Narnia to Earth and so on. So I'm assuming it's just a kind of nod to that. Next one, why does Thrawn send only 2 TIE fighters? Well, because Ahsoka's ship only had 2 wings to take them out with. But seriously, I don't know if I'm Thrawn, I send more than 2. Next, why would Ahsoka consider Sabine unlocking her potential, which has already been established to be less than any previous Jedi, be so dangerous? Well, I guess I'm assuming Sabine's potential is higher than anticipated, or higher than maybe Huyang figured, and Ahsoka thinks she is capable of much more than we ever imagined, certainly we ever imagined, because she had never shown really any Force ability before this. So I'm guessing it's just a matter of you'd ever want to train a Jedi or train someone in the ways of the Force who is going to kind of go dark side. Moving on, why does Ahsoka say to Sabine, your gamble paid off? Sabine's gamble, as far as Ahsoka is aware at this point, will allow Thrawn to return, which is the one thing she was desperate to avoid. And I think I'll answer your question with a question of my own, which is, why didn't Ahsoka just destroy the map when she first found it if the only thing it was a map to Thrawn? Why does she get Sabine involved at all if she knows Sabine is potentially going to be tempted to try and save Ezra? And no, I don't have answers to those questions. But moving on, let's get to this one, which is, why does Ahsoka, who as a former Padawan surely believes in non-attachment like all Jedi, condone Sabine's decision to risk the fate of an entire galaxy for the life of one person? Earlier in the season, this was Ahsoka's view, but now she has the complete opposite view without any explanation as to why. As her master, surely Ahsoka is supposed to teach Sabine, but instead it seems she's happy for her to do whatever she wishes, illustrated when she says, no matter what happens next, I'm going to be there for you. So if Sabine turns to the dark side, Ahsoka will be cool with it. If she joins Thrawn, Ahsoka will support her. She says Anakin always stood by her, but when she was suspected of bombing the Jedi Temple, he still tried to bring her to trial. Yes, he also found out the truth, but he didn't say, I don't care about the process, I'm with you. Plus he did turn into Darth Vader, so maybe not the best role model. Okay, that was a long question, but the answer is simply, and I'm not saying it's a good answer, but the answer is simply Ahsoka now understands who Sabine is and is willing to accept it. That's about all I got for you. Next one, Sabine says I have gained better control over my lightsaber, but how? We haven't seen her train with it at all. I guess confidence? That's, again, all I got for you. Moving on, why is the shuttle suddenly able to be damaged by laser fire when in the previous episode it was hit time and time again and was fine? Well, because this time we needed it to be damaged because it was required by the plot, whereas last time the plot required it not to take damage. Next one, why do those TIE fighters allow a much larger, slower, and less nimble shuttle to ram them rather than dodge out of the way? I don't know. I guess they were playing chicken and thought Sabine was going to move first. But honestly, I have no idea. I think they should have easily been able to get out of the way instead of like covering their faces and being like, I'm going to get hit. Next one up here, why when Ezra says this is going to slow us down a bit, does Ahsoka say only if we let it? Riding those wolves, one of which carries 2 people, is definitely going to be slower than traveling in the shuttle. Though, saying that, why are they traveling in the shuttle at the pace of the crab people? Why are they not racing in the shuttle to stop Thrawn? Why are they still with the crab people at all? They're still with the crab people in order to put them into danger because the plot again requires it. The plot requires them to have a reason to kind of be plodding along so the TIE fighters can sneak up on them and damage the ship. I mean, there's no reason they should be sticking around with them in theory, because the only thing they are doing is putting them in danger, because they have to figure Thrawn is going to send some kind of force out to stop them since they have a ship, and thus by hanging around the crab people who Thrawn doesn't care about at all, again, they are only risking their safety, they're risking their lives for no reason. As for Ahsoka's comment about it not letting them slow them down, that's just her trying to be optimistic. Then we go to this one. Why is Thrawn not tracking the TIE fighters? Is he not tracking them? I don't remember. I'm assuming he is and can and does, but who knows? Thrawn seemed to be missing a lot in this episode, so maybe he wasn't tracking his own TIE fighters. I don't know. Then we go to, why does Thrawn say, assuming the Jedi ship is down, this is why we should prepare for a ground assault? If Thrawn has dominance in the air and no way for his ships to be attacked from the ground, how is this not the perfect scenario for an aerial bombardment? Pass, because I don't know. That is the perfect time for an aerial bombardment. Then we go to, worse, he doesn't launch a ground assault. A ground assault is an attack using ground forces as opposed to air forces. This is the actual military definition. So Filoni is telling me that a Grand Admiral doesn't even understand basic military language. He literally doesn't understand what he is saying. I'm supposed to believe he is a supreme tactician when he doesn't even know what a ground assault is, but orders one anyway. Yeah, again, I don't know. I would have just continued with the air assault. I don't think there's any way they cover that much ground. Several miles of literally open space if Thrawn sends out a bomber or more TIE fighters or anything at that point. Instead, he lets them get miles of territory or miles of ground without hindering them at all, and then just fires when they're directly under the ship. Alright, next one. Why are the crab people working on repairing the shuttle? They have never seen this vehicle before and have no idea how it works. How are they able to repair it within a matter of hours, if it's even that long? Because reasons. I don't know. I don't think they should have any means by which to repair the shuttle. I understand they seem to be mechanically or technologically inclined to some degree. They have their floating pod homes, which they seem to be able to repair. But yeah, we are talking about a ship from another galaxy, and all we ever really even see them doing is kind of like flicking some switches in the cockpit, so I don't know that they actually helped. I don't know how the ship goes from crashing into the ground to being flight-worthy in a couple hours, but hey, Huyang is a genius. Yeah, we'll go with that. Then we go to, if the witches are able to bring troopers back to life, why has Thrawn sustained any losses at all? Yeah, I don't know, because maybe they need to sustain the magic. It seemed to be implied maybe they had to sustain it, that they had to be chanting for them to keep going. I think it was like that in Clone Wars too. So yeah, he's probably lost people along the way and they just can't sustain the enchantment, even though we've seen like Marok enchanted for long periods of time. I don't know. I got nothing on this one either. Then we have, why does Ahsoka think going through the front door is the best strategy for success? Well, because that's what Anakin would have done. That is my only answer for this one too. It makes her kind of more unpredictable and reckless like her master. It goes along with what Thrawn has said. Not saying that's a good explanation, but that is your explanation. Next up is, how is the Star Destroyer unable to hit 2 slow-moving targets across hundreds of meters of open ground with dozens of lasers? Even a single sniper would have been able to shoot them with a rifle, let alone lasers that travel at the speed of light. Well, lasers in Star Wars really don't travel at the speed of light, do they? I mean, they're supposed to, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying in Star Wars we've seen them literally like arc in The Last Jedi, so they are not moving at the speed of light somehow, some way. But to your point here, I don't know, they should have been able to hit them. It is, again, one of those things where the Force wills it to be, and so they don't get shot, and they make their way to the castle and up the stairs, and don't really save the day, but still kind of get their win over Morgan. Next up, how are 30 or 40 stormtroopers unable to shoot 3 people? Because stormtroopers are useless in Star Wars, or they're useless in certain shows of Star Wars. In Andor, they seem very capable. In pretty much everything else, they seem incompetent. Then we move on to, why do lightsabers do so little damage? Why do Ahsoka and Ezra not chop off the legs of their attackers so they can't attack them? I know you had this question too. Yeah, the crazy thing is at no point does any limb get removed until the Death Trooper fight where they take off the heads, or Sabine activates her lightsaber through the head of the Death Trooper. but they never consider the possibility of just chopping off a leg or two and stopping the stormtroopers or night troopers in their tracks. No kind of pun intended. Moving on, why does Ahsoka say of Sabine she's been training when we've seen no evidence of it? Well, she trained a little bit in the 3rd episode, and again, I think this is just a matter of implying she's more confident now, and that confidence or belief that, it's a do or do not, there is no try sort of thing, that Sabine is now starting to actually believe. Though again, I'm with you, there is no evidence of her training other than that little bit in episode 3, so it is kind of strange that she just kind of starts doing stuff. Moving on, we have this one that is, how fortunate are they that there are so many doors to be sealed? How did the stormtroopers blast through the doors? I'll do you one better. Why do they not have the doors closed in the first place and have the stormtroopers behind the doors and slow down the Jedi? I mean, yes, they have lightsabers which theoretically can cut through the doors, but it's kind of odd that the attackers use the doors against the defenders in this case. Again, Thrawn and his brilliant strategic mind. Okay, then we have, why is Ahsoka so slow with her lightsabers? Why does she use 2 lightsabers as though they are one? Miyamoto Musashi perfected the 2 technique to defeat multiple enemies at once, but against a single swordman, using one blade had an obvious advantage. Ahsoka should be the same. I got nothing for you again. I did like that in the 4th episode, Ahsoka did go to 1 saber against the much more powerful Baylan, realizing that using 2 sabers would be a disadvantage in that scenario, but here she just goes back to them because it looks cool. Moving on, why does Ezra not use the Force instantly against the Dark Troopers? Why does he stab one and not slice him in half? Again, I don't know, because Ezra wasn't thinking in the moment and didn't remember how powerful lightsabers are because he'd been watching the Ahsoka series. On to this one, how is Sabine suddenly able to use the Force just as we all expected when the plot needs her to be able to use it? Goes back to that training in belief, right? She just started to believe really hard, and so it worked for her this time. Though, yeah, we all kind of expected this to happen at some point. Then we have, when Ahsoka is alone, how are the stormtroopers unable to gun her down? I don't know. She's a Jedi, so she just, can not get shots. Moving on, how is Sabine suddenly strong enough to force push Ezra to the Star Destroyer? Belief. Again, I'm going to go with belief for 100, Alex. That's all I got. Then we have, why is the Star Destroyer leaving so slowly? Is it because that's the only way Ezra can make it across, or is there a reason within the story? I don't think there's much of a reason in story. My question would be, why did the Star Destroyer not go up to the Ring of Sion? Instead, why did the Sion, or the Ring of Sion, come down to meet it? Seems like if he just goes into space and with Ahsoka's ship crashed into the ground, that's game over. Next up, why is Ahsoka better with 1 lightsaber than 2? She's trained her whole life to fight with 2. Well, you remember those training videos Anakin showed her or made for her? I'm sure there was a single lightsaber use video. Plus, she did start with 1 lightsaber, so yeah, I guess. Moving on, how are we supposed to believe Sabine has trained with a lightsaber when watching her fight with one? We see she is ponderously slow. Well, I'll pass on that one too. I don't know. That's a matter of choreography and just the capability of the actress, I would say, more so than an in-story question. I know, not a great answer, but that's the one I'll go with. Then we move along to, why does Thrawn only decide to destroy the fortress when it's too late to stop Ezra leaping onto his ship or to kill Sabine and Ahsoka? Is it because that's the only way Ahsoka and Sabine can survive, or is there a reason within the story? You kind of answered your own question. There is really no reason in the story. Again, all Thrawn had to do was kind of move his ship up to the ring. He can blast the hell out of the fortress once they're in it, and it's game over. Thrawn wins and looks like the genius he's supposed to be, even though that's a pretty basic and simple strategy. Then we have, why is the Star Destroyer unable to destroy the pursuing shuttle? Because it can only fire down. We saw that earlier, right? Moving on, why does Thrawn regret that he'll never meet Ahsoka face to face when he was afraid of her? I think he's just kind of trying to be a cordial opponent sort of thing. Kind of maybe rubbing it in her face too a little bit. I don't think he really meant that one. I'll let that one slide. Then we have, why does Thrawn use the word Ronin? Does he somehow know about Japanese history and culture? Well, maybe he studied it. He does love his culture and history and so on. But seriously, I don't know. They're just trying to be clever and try to incorporate something that Lucas was inspired by. He was definitely inspired by the works of Kurosawa and such. So I don't really have a problem with this one either. Next up, why do Ahsoka and Sabine go back to the Crab People? What is their plan? I don't think they have a plan, which is kind of interesting, because they were trying to stop Thrawn from going back to the other galaxy, so they were kind of resigned to not going back themselves, it seems. So maybe that was their plan all along, to just come back and live with the Crab People. Again, I don't really have a good explanation. I think they're just kind of trying to give you this very subdued ending for them. Like, here they are, stuck on this planet with the Crab People, which is where Ezra was for 10 years. Then we have why make the statues such an obvious ripoff from Lord of the Rings. I think just to make an obvious ripoff of Lord of the Rings. I mean, Ahsoka the White has been kind of this meme for the last 5-6 years since the end of Rebels, so I think they just went with that. I don't really, again, have a problem with that. I get why people kind of laugh at it, but it is what it is. We move on to why do Baylan and Shin not have a single word of dialogue in this episode? That's a really good question. I kind of would have preferred just an entire episode about what Baylan and Shin are up to, but hey, that's for season 2 if we ever get it. And really, they're just trying to entice you for season 2. That's why they had the kind of cliffhangers that they do here. Then we have how does Ezra escape from the Star Destroyer? And that is a good question for another time. How does he find Hera? Maybe because he somehow knows she's the general of the fleet? I mean, Sabine would have told her that. I don't think it's too impossible that he would have been able to locate the New Republic fleet. That one, again, I'm okay with. Why is he still wearing the Stormtrooper armor? That one's just stupid. Why would you wear the armor? You're potentially going to get yourself shot as soon as you set foot on the ship or step off the ramp or even open the ramp. There is absolutely no reason for that other than dramatic tension. Why is his ship not shot down? I'm assuming it sent some kind of communication of some kind that it's like, hey, I want to talk, but why they were so willing to let another ship into their ship after what happened in the first episode with Baylan and Shin, yeah, that's beyond me. Well, that's going to be all I got for this time. So once again, thanks to Glenn for your long list of questions here. I hope I gave some satisfactory answers. And if you enjoyed this video, which if you made it this far, perhaps you did, then maybe I'll do more like it in the future. I really do like the lightning response videos. I like to talk some Star Wars, go figure. So in that case, leave your questions below, leave your whatever below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.